Last minute, there are so many questions.
Okay.
And they're all good, every last one. We got to get... James. Wow, nobody can hear me even when
Another Crookshank match. It's really nice.
Hello, hello, hello. If you can hear my voice, can you please clap once? If you can hear my voice, can you please clap 2 times? It's too loud and distorted?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to turn it down. Test, 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 test,
Test,
test, test, test. Is that better? Can you hear the sultry towns?
Hello, hello, hello.
Radio Phoenicia, 547.
Hello, hello. There I am.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
All right, everybody, we're going to get started here. If we could try to quiet down, it would be greatly appreciated. My name is James Amenta. I'd like to welcome everybody here. We have the League of Women Voters as a host. Can we get a round of applause? And this is Cindy Bell, our volunteer moderator. If we can get a big round of applause for her. She is here out of the kindness of her heart to support her community and for a love of democracy.
Okay, let's get started. All right, first we're going to go over the rules. And oh my God, there are so many great questions here. I'm not sure we'll have time to get through them all, but thoughtful and amazing. So, each candidate's going to get a 3-minute opening statement. These are the rules. Audience members will be provided. You have index cards. If anybody does not have an index card that wants one, just raise your hand. Questions must be issues only, no statements, personal or editorial remarks. And I have kind of gone through them already, so we're good on that. I will choose the questions that are asked, so that's on me entirely. Each candidate's going to have 2 minutes. All of the questions will be asked to both candidates, and I'm going to go back and forth with who starts with the answers. Please silence your electronics for the duration of the event. My cell phone doesn't work up here, so I'm the audience is expected to be quiet and respectful while the candidates are speaking. Please hold all applause until the end. Our purpose here is to allow as much time as possible for candidates to express their views so voters can make an informed choice. So not just the people in this room, but the people who will be watching at home. Each candidate's going to get a 3-minute closing statement. speaking times will be strictly enforced out of respect for the other candidates and the public's right to hear all candidates speak. So tonight, our timekeeper is Helen Chase, who apparently a lot of you know. So Helen's going to hold up signs for 1 minute. This is during the opening statements. That's blue. 30 seconds, that's yellow. And when you see the red card, that means stop talking. Tonight's order of speakers was determined by drawing lots. Mr. DiSclafani, how do you say your name?
DiSclafani.
DiSclafani. You may start. You have 3 minutes.
No clapping.
applause, because it just takes too much time. We have a lot of questions to get through.
Apologies for the lack of air conditioning. It broke this afternoon, and we won't get somebody to fix it till Monday. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate this opportunity to meet both of us and to ask us poignant questions and just to see how we feel. I'll tell you, there's a lot of new people here, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Pete DiSclafani. I'm originally from Saugerties. I moved here about 37 years ago. My wife and I moved here to open a restaurant and a small inn. We did that until a year or so ago. The restaurant closed. And we've always loved this area. I got involved with, I guess, the Democrat Party here in Shandaken about 25 years ago. We put together kind of a Democrat committee, and I started getting involved that way, and then ran for office in 2006 for councilman, and then ran for won, and ran for supervisor in 2008. Was supervisor 08 and 09, and then again I ran for councilman in 2016. Was councilman till 2022, and then I ran for supervisor, and I've been supervisor since. I think a lot of the town, I work with the councilman to try and move the town forward. We finalized an STR law. We put together a CAC, a Conservation Advisory Council, and we're moving the town forward, I think, in a good way. My, I guess, not specialty, but I am trained in some accounting. I did business schooling when I was in California. I was going to always open a restaurant, so I did business classes, and that really helped when I came into the town. There's a lot of financial stuff to work. The budget is a $2.5 million budget. The big part of that budget is the ambulance service, and that's $750,000. There's about 70 employees, so it's a big responsibility. It's something that you have to keep on daily and weekly, and check your budget numbers weekly and monthly. So I've been keeping that in line. Budgets have been good. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield?
Hi, everybody. My name is Barbara Mansfield, and as I look around the room, I am seeing people who, when I first moved here in 2006, I volunteered with, and I see people who I'm volunteering with now, and I appreciate you all coming. Thank you. I've already worked to help the town of Shandaken, especially in the last year, and I've witnessed a lot of really impressive volunteer and committee members. Together with the Parks Department, I helped raise $425,000 for renovation at Glenbrook Park that is almost halfway done, and I urge you to go and look at the pavilion and some of the changes we've made there. In terms of the Water Committee for Phoenicia, I've been working to ready Phoenicia for grants so that it can get the desperately needed funds to fix the water system. I spent 30 plus years in nonprofit management, and I managed budgets the size of this town. That also included not just managing the budgets, but accurately projecting income, fixing financial tracking problems, personnel and volunteer management, creating successful communication system, and running a very efficient meeting, which I think anyone who's ever been in a meeting that I chaired will tell you. I really, really look forward to moving this town forward on the volunteer steam that it's running on right now. We have a lot of amazing people who are doing a lot for our town, and I want to make sure that they have the snapshot of finances they need when they need it, and that they have the communication that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as we all know, this is a primary, so only Democrats, only registered Democrats will be able to vote in it, and pursuant to that, how important is party affiliation to this job? If you lose this race, will you run on another line? And we'll start with Ms. Mansfield.
No, I won't. I have been a Democrat since I first voted at the age of 18, and I don't plan on changing that anytime soon. I didn't petition to be on another party line, and the answer is no.
Thank you. Mr. DiSclafani.
Well, I'm also on the Working Families primary, so I'm not sure yet. I've never been on another line except for an independent line that I've made myself. I've never been on well, I was once years ago on the independence line, but I'm not sure yet. I can't say.
Okay. Next question, how can we improve the town to better support children and young folks and get them to stay? Mr. DiSclafani.
Well, I guess the best way to do that is to try and make housing more affordable. And that's been the big question for towns and counties and the state, how to make affordable housing and where to do that. I mean, the town itself doesn't have land where we can say, okay, let's build some affordable housing here, or the money, but we can try and make zoning easier for affordable housing. If the state or federal government wanted to put some money, or an individual person, a private company wanted to build affordable housing, we can certainly make zoning easier for that.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield?
Yeah, I do agree that we do have to make housing affordable for people who want to live here. We're an aging population that needs to have housing for emergency service workers, for our regular service workers. We can encourage that by community-driven efforts. I think what we've done with the master plan, the comprehensive master plan, is to build a construct where we're getting community input. And zoning will have to go forward in the same way. But that's one part of it. I think we also have to make this an encouraging place to live and work for young people. Not having the ability to go online or have self-service has been somewhat of a challenge for people who work remotely, and now with MTC going in the town of Phoenicia, and I hope they will continue to expand because it's a fabulous company, we will have better connectivity for remote workers. But we also want them to have stores that are open and places where they can shop and support, restaurants that are supported, and a life. And while that is in part, zoning, it's also we have to do other things to encourage that.
Thank you. All right. How do you, or will you, keep high quality and affordable emergency services in Shandaken? Mrs. Mansfield.
It's sometimes those questions dovetail on one another, but I do think that we need to have a younger population that's here, and a lot of that has to do with making housing that's affordable. And we also have to look at what does that look like. We have hamlets, and I think doing smart growth is what's needed. So making the housing so that it's condensed in the hamlets, and then keeping what we all love about this place, the scenic byway and our beautiful view shed, is such an attraction for all of us, and it's going to be for a next generation of emergency workers and service workers.
Thank you. Mr. DiSclafani.
Yeah, all that's very true. I'm working with the county right now to try and expand our ambulance service. There's been, for the last 4 or 5 years, just so much thought and planning, trying to go into and doing studies on how we can make emergency services a little bit better. And the biggest problem is personnel. There just aren't enough people going into the emergency services. Certainly not the fire service, because that's volunteer and people just don't have the spare time. But going into the ambulance service, becoming EMTs and becoming paramedics, we have to try and lure people into going into those services after high school and get them involved, even nursing. But right now, what the county is doing is they're trying to expand the ambulance service with agencies that are already established, like Shandaken, that has a paramedic service, and Woodstock. There's many towns that don't even have a BLS or a basic life support system. So we're trying to expand that through the whole town, and the county has actually promised up to $5 million to go towards a county-wide ambulance service. And they will focus on places that are already established, giving Shandaken money, giving Olive, that's just BLS, some money to get better equipment and to be able to raise salaries to be even across the board, so that the more wealthy towns can't or won't steal our paramedics.
Okay. Thank you. Please offer an opinion on the effectiveness of the short-term rental law and thoughts on any room for improvement. Mr. DiSclafani.
Well, the short-term rental law, we were up against the wall because they were just growing exponentially over, from the early to mid-teens, and then when COVID hit, it just went crazy. And we had to try and control it in some way. So we, put our heads together and put a cap on how many could open, and then we lowered that cap. I guess making that cap lower as we lose the legacy licenses is the best way, and that's what we've been doing over the last couple of years.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield.
I know a lot of residents need this income to survive, but I think the rules that were recently put in place are pretty good. I think we need to look at incentives for STR owners to rent longer term, and I think a lot of them are feeling that the hustle of constantly turning over might be easier if there was some incentive that we could provide for them to rent longer. We would have more housing inventory. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. How do you envision integrating the highway department role into town government so roads and bridges can be repaired in a timely manner? And we'll start with Ms. Mansfield.
Read the question again.
Sure. How do you envision integrating the highway department role into town government so roads and bridges can be repaired in a timely manner?
The question presumes that making the highway department role change would get bridges and roads repaired sooner. And I think that the barrier to getting bridges and roads repaired maybe lies in other areas, funding, being prepared for funding, and in the case of the sidewalks in Phoenicia, for instance, I think it's also an understanding of responsibility. There's been a shuffle game between, the county owns this road or the business owners are responsible for the sidewalks, and if the highway were enabled to have a sidewalk district, for instance, then we could move ahead with not only funding, but have a shared understanding for maintenance and repairs after that. In terms of highway repairs, I think that our highway department is doing a fairly decent job considering the entire span of what they have to take care of.
Thank you. Mr. DiSclafani?
Yeah, yes, I agree. It's definitely a funding issue, especially bridges. Bridges turn out to be the smallest little bridge is multi-million-dollar investment, and they don't last that long, 15 or 20 years, and it's just like we're scratching our head and begging the state for some money. The town roads, they're on a schedule. They go from one end of town to the other and try and keep on top of it. Some roads that are out in the outlying areas that aren't even paved are the worst, because with winter and spring and thaws and freezes, it turns into a quagmire. Roads should be paved more readily, and they'll last longer if they're paved, but that's just, the money isn't there at times. Yes, there's a big, about the sidewalk in Phoenicia, there's always been the big argument is whose sidewalk is it? I have documentation, and I've brought it to the county, where 25 years ago, the DPW had admitted that it is the county's sidewalk, but they're not, since then, and that was under Bob Cross's administration, and since then, they have just said, no, it's not ours, it's owned by the property owners who abut the town. But that's the big issue.
Thank you. I have a question about the Pine Hill Water District regarding repairs, upgrades, well replacement, and generator replacement. And we'll start with Mr. DiSclafani.
We have a newly formed committee up in Pine Hill, and they are going through and seeing exactly what needs to be upgraded. And it's been about 25 years since anything's been upgraded there. There was a new reservoir put in and some new lines, and at the time, a lot of new meters, and they had electronic readers, but all those 80% of those meters are failing now, and the electronic readers part of it they have completely fallen apart. So the superintendent is out there in the winter digging up some meters to read the meters, because they're underground, because they were going to be just electronic read, so they put them underground. Well, we're redoing that. We were approved for a grant for $160,000 to redo all the meters and all the readers that are attached to them, and a program that will keep everything in line. And we'll know more quickly who's got a leak and when their lines need to be fixed.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield.
So regarding Pine Hill, I'm really pleased to see some of the new committee members here. Thank you for serving. I've been on the Phoenicia Water Committee, and being on that committee has made a lot of difference in terms of board movement and their capacity to understand, or all of us to understand, what the issues were. And I think that's going to be true in Pine Hill. The meters, I'm really glad that those are going in. Will that provide more time for the superintendent to find leaks in the system? We hope so, because it was a broken pipe that made Pine Hill lose its water, not a reservoir that was empty. So I think that those meters are going to really help the water committee get information from the superintendent sooner about leaks, and that's great.
Thank you. Do you have any plans to acquire or manage the old school property in Phoenicia? Ms. Mansfield.
The flood damaged, did you say?
No, the old school property in Phoenicia, the Phoenicia Elementary School that's now closed.
Okay, yeah. I think that the Phoenicia Elementary is a really, it's an important piece of property. I think there's a lot of things that people wish would happen with that. And I'm in that camp. I would love to have a community center there. I would love for there to be affordable housing there, but for any plan to go forward, it has to be in concert with the board members and a plan that is community-driven. And I think that it also has to be a business plan that makes sense and will not bankrupt the town.
Thank you. Mr. DiSclafani?
Yeah, well, I think I've made it known that I'm for purchasing the Phoenicia School. The majority of the board doesn't think it's the right time. We do have some time before, we missed the school vote last month, and we can bring it up again if it hasn't sold before then, but we could bring it up again and revisit it next year before the next school vote. Somewhere in March, we have to let them know if we want it to go up, because it has to go up for a district-wide referendum. Olive and Woodstock and Hurley have to vote on it also, as well as Shandaken, even if we did want it. I think it would be a really good property for the town. I don't think it would bankrupt the town. I think the repairs that are needed and retrofitting it to be a town hall, doing town hall offices, I think could run about $1 million. And over a 20-year period, we can pay it off as a bond. I think it's a very doable project, and it would afford us to have a recreation area for the community. I think it could be a very good thing, but at this point, we have to wait basically a year before we could bring it up.
Thank you.
Affordable housing could be good too.
That leads me to my next question. What ideas do you have to address the shortage of affordable housing in Shandaken? And you may start.
Well, I've worked with some of the other communities. The supervisor of Middletown and Roxbury and Hallcut and Hardenburg, we put our heads together and we approached the state to look for some grants, that if we could find a piece of land, and I understand that Middletown near Margaretville has found the land. They're in a good location because they have sewer and water to offer for affordable housing, because that's one of the things you really need if you're going to do an affordable housing project. You need access to sewer and water. So maybe something in Pine Hill could be, if we can find a piece of land to put some, but right now nothing is written in stone, but we're talking to state agencies to try and push that forward.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield?
Yeah, I think affordable housing is one thing. We're missing housing that's often termed workforce or middle housing. That is perhaps even more important. I helped create the Catskill Alliance for Housing Preservation very recently. I am not on its board, but I am a nonprofit administrator, and I help them form. And it's to help link, in the future, qualified homeowners to low-cost loans and to free and low-cost home repairs. And also to perhaps taking over some of these, to be an entity that can take over some of the housing issues. I think we're working on a smart growth grant right now, board member Drake and myself, for a consultant to help us determine what we want housing to look like in Shandaken, because you really have to think that out. On the state level, I'm committed to the newly formed organization getting home and community repair funding restored in our town. That was lost when Sharp lost that, and I think we need to get that funding restored so we can have a professional in the office to do that. And then I think we have a great Housing Smart Committee, and they're working on an inventory of housing right now. And I think the group that purchased and is trying so hard to update the Wellington and Pine Hills created a model for the rest of the state to be inspired by. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you support Phoenicia getting a sewer system? If so, how would you go about it? Ms. Mansfield.
I think that we need to repair our relationship, and I think that some of our board members have been working very hard to do that with the city to some degree, so that we might revisit a sewer in Phoenicia. But first and foremost, I think we really need to look at the entire water system. Having a municipal septic in Phoenicia is not going to work if we don't have a comparable drinking water system, and at present we don't. So we have issues, and we have to figure out how to do updates as well as new things.
Thank you. Mr. DiSclafani?
Yes, I have always been for a sewer system in Phoenicia. I worked hard as my first term as supervisor. I thought I had another, that there was a vote that failed right before I became supervisor, and in 2005 or 2004, but in 2006 and 2007, I was working hard to try and get a new system designed to put it before the board for a vote. That didn't happen while I was in office. But I am certainly for revisiting, and I have put messages to DEP that were interested to move forward. If they were interested, would they contact me? And no one has yet. But
Thank you. You're finished? I don't want to rush you. Okay, with all the cuts in federal funding and the possible demise of FEMA, what ideas or policies would you put forth to deal with a natural disaster, especially flooding or a fire? Mr. DiSclafani.
well, we've been working closely with the county and with the state through AWSMP, the Shandaken Watershed Stream Management Program, and the former supervisor, Rob Stanley, started Safari, which is a group, Shandaken area flood remediation. And we meet every month, and there is money from DEP and DEC, the state and the city, to help do flood remediation and to do flood planning. We work with with them. We still work with FEMA through the community rating system to give our citizens a 5% discount on their flood insurance, those that need flood insurance. And right now I'm working on a 5-year renewal that could give them 10 or 15% discount. And that will take a couple of months. We have a meeting with FEMA in middle of August. But the flood work and the flood mitigation is ongoing. We did a Pine Hill LFA when I first got in office in 22. Before that, while I was councilman, we did the Phoenicia LFA. We've done an LFA for Shandaken right here. We're going to do an LFA also for Chichester and one for Big Indian, a local flood analysis. That opens us up to more grants and more funding to do some road and bridge enhancements to try and get water to flow under the bridges better and to make us more resilient.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield?
I'm really grateful for the work of Safari and the continued involvement from Van Blarcom, Mr. DiSclafani, in moving that work forward. FEMA's flood mapping is going to help with some county funds that are needed for the Bridge Street repair. And that could have a great significant impact on the town of Phoenicia. I think we need to also, as I've said, upgrade and repair hamlet water systems. They're a threat in flooding and that could further exacerbate flooding. We have a really active Conservation Advisory Committee that has a meeting. I think everybody should come on the 16th about how homeowners can deal with flooding, and that's here on the 16th in the evening.
Thank you.
Shameless
printed
promotion.
material here. You can pick it up on your way out. How will you deal with ice attacks on our neighbors? Will you instruct Shandaken Police? And we'll start with Ms. Mansfield.
Wow, that's an interesting one.
It's a concern. Okay, how will you deal with ice attacks, as in immigration, on our neighbors? And will you instruct the police department?
How we keep our neighbors safe in this horrific climate is really of great personal concern to me. We have a lot of people who work, and the fact that we've gone so long without any sort of immigration policy nationally is not helpful to the farmers. It's not helpful to any business. It's not helpful to our communities. But the sheer hate that's fomented on the national level is something that I'm not sure what we can do on the local level except for band together and.
Okay. Mr.
That's
DiSclafani.
exactly it, and I've spoken with Chad, and Chad, I know, is a county sheriff, and he's a sheriff's deputy, and, you know, everything comes from the state down to the county, and from the county to the town. I think overall, on a state level, there's a reticence to move towards anything and trying to keep our citizens safe as possible. I think that's the number one goal. Trying to keep ICE at bay, but they only have so much power to do that. ICE is just despicable. But
Thank you. Don't forget to talk into your microphone.
I'm sorry.
Okay, talk about the new plans for development at Bel Air. And we're going to start with Mr. DiSclafani.
The not development at Bel Air. Yeah, I think it came as a surprise to many of us, but you know, I'm not against development. I'm not against a very responsible development, but that particular development was basically, oh, let's see as much we can get as much as we can, and it's I think for the best if somebody else comes in with a more reasonable, with a more responsible development idea.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield.
Well, I mean, recently in the news, it looks like the resort issue is dead, but it could just be playing possum. I think we need to review how permits are issued in our town, and I think that's part of an overall view for what we want our town to look like. This goes to you know, the comprehensive master plan and zoning, but all of it needs to be with community input, community-led, and I'm for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. How can you support our fire districts? Ms. Mansfield.
Well, I've been meeting with the fire districts. I, you know, have asthma, and I haven't been able to breathe from the Montauk fire, and I'm like, it's hard to conceive of, you know, how many more weather-related emergencies we're going to have. We're in a change in climate, and from the explosion of ticks we've seen to, you know, the increase in fires and floods, we're going to have to prepare for emergencies. That means shoring up our infrastructure in the hamlets, and that means knowing where our neighbors are. That means having personal plans for our families and our friends, and that means having neighborhood plans. It's scary out there.
Thank you. Mr. DiSclafani.
Having been on the fire department for over 20 years, I kind of know the issues at hand, and the biggest issue is lack of personnel, lack of people getting involved with their neighborhood fire district and trying to help. It's a big ask. It's a lot of schooling. It's a big commitment. But equipment also. Equipment needs to be upgraded. We're moving more towards, I mean, it's hard to imagine after the wet spring we've had, but last year was very dry. We had issues with fires here and down south of the county. So having more woodland equipment, woodland firefighting equipment is essential. There's neighbors from Olive and from Margaretville and from Woodstock that come and help us, and from Hurley. We do mutual aid for each of us, for each town, because each municipality and each fire district has its own issues with lack of personnel. So we help each other out.
Thank you. Describe your experience working with other government entities in such as the DEC, DEP, state, county, etc. Mr. DiSclafani.
Yeah, I've been, doing that for the last 10 years with the monthly meetings at Safari with DEC, DEP, and county officials, and it's good. It's you build a good relationship. We work together. We look for grants, and we look for funding. We look for ways to get issues accomplished, and just like looking for more water sources for fire districts, even that, as well as flooding.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield.
What I know about securing grants is that they don't start with the RFP or a deadline. You really need to be out there politicking and advocating for your community well in advance of a grant notice. And for instance, the CREST funding that we just secured from the Parks Department for Glenbrook Park required many meetings via PH2, thank you Jan Jaffe, and other opportunities like mobile offices to make sure that we were in Senator Hinchey's face. And advocating for those funds also means going to every Ulster County Chamber of Commerce meeting you can, going to state level representative meetings, and going to advocacy days on the state level. It's being out there beyond the community and not waiting for things to come to you.
Thank you. Our town is difficult for our neighbors without cars. Is there anything you do to help pedestrians with bikes, and buses? Ms. Mansfield.
I am really a big fan of active transportation, and that does include buses. Many of us have been working on getting the UCAT to cross the county line so that seniors on bus or anyone riding a bus can get to Margaretville Hospital. That is our nearest hospital, but in so many ways it's less accessible than going all the way to Kingston, and that doesn't make sense. I think that we're going to have to get really creative about transportation, especially when you get to an age where you maybe shouldn't or can't ride a bicycle anymore, or can't walk. Oh, thank you. I think that there have been some initiatives and ideas around microtransit that I'm very excited about. Imagine Uber system as if it were a service, so that someone could come to your door. Now, I've driven for Catskill Neighbors, and they're wonderful, and being able to transport seniors to appointments via that It's an important nonprofit, but they could use help from the county level, and that would be, licensed drivers to drive people. And I think if it's on a small scale like microtransit, we can do that. But active transportation also requires that we have better sidewalks and safer roadways. And like I said, I am all for a sidewalk district in Phoenicia, and to make our drainage better in Pine Hill so that people can walk on sidewalks if they're built, or the streets. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jessup.
Yes, expanding UCAT is the best avenue, I think, to get more people out of their cars and in a bus. They go to Kingston and go all the way up to Pine Hill. Yep, I would love to see them go beyond the county line into Margaretville and do a loop in Delaware County. That would be great. But yeah, expanding UCAT would be fabulous.
Thank you. I know they go to Poughkeepsie. Okay. Please address ideas on how to beautify downtown Phoenicia. Mr. DiSclafani. We're going lighter now.
Well, I know it would be so costly, but burying the power lines would be the best thing to do for Phoenicia, and putting some trees on the sidewalks, or even small trees. But those are great ideas, but very costly.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield.
Yeah, I'm already in contact with some state officials about burying the power lines, and I think there is funding for that. But I also think, again, with the sidewalks, it'd be nice to be able to walk safely on a sidewalk, and to have trash where you could put trash in a receptacle. That would be nice. But one thing I would say is never underestimate the power of the arts to update a small town. We have a disproportionate, amazing number of artists here. We have people, Dave Shannon and Christina Varga, who have been working on the Ulster County Arts Committee, and I am really excited by the possibilities of what we can do to make our town stand out in a way that will make other people go, wow.
Thank you. Whoop. Enthusiastic. Okay. We're winding it down a little. This job is demanding and difficult, and will be more demanding in the future, yet poorly compensated. What is your personal motivation for seeking this job, Ms. Mansfield?
My personal motivation for seeking this job is the neighbors that I have gotten close to in Phoenicia and in Pine Hill now. Thank you again, Jan Jaffe. I am really buoyed by the committee work. There are so many people who put so many hours and intelligence and expertise in on committees. And I feel that they need more support. We need to have a budget that you can have a snapshot of for a committee at any point, instead of wondering what the answers to how much is in my budget are. I feel like we have a lot of emergency and first responding volunteers who are wondering, how am I going to get the equipment we need? Again, that grant readiness is one of the things that inspires me to help people along. I know that's something I can do. I spent 30 years doing it.
Thank you. Mr. DiSclafani?
Yeah, it's a challenge and an honor to serve. It's a hard job. It's difficult. It's onerous, but there's just a satisfaction when you finish the day. You've got things accomplished, and you have irons in the fire. You have things working, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
It's not the money.
If a Catskills genie offered you one wish to change our town in an instant, what would you ask for? Mr. DiSclafani.
To change our town. Yeah, sidewalks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sidewalks. everywhere.
Ms. Mansfield.
Well, not to sound too corny, but I think the Catskill Genie kind of offered a wish, granted a wish for this town. We have a community that works together. I've watched other towns, and we're uniquely we're uniquely able to work together. I think how that plays is, in this case, the wish would be to magically have everyone on the same page about where zoning would go in our town.
Thank you. What are 3 things you'd do to help Shandaken's government be a model for other towns? Ms. Mansfield.
3 things that I would do, and that's with the genie's help, right? Right, okay, so I think what I would do would be, again, to make sure that zoning patches, however it happens, happens in a way that's community-driven. I also think that we should have our arts front and centered in our hamlets especially. And I really am excited about what our parks can be. That's how I started on this town. We have some outstanding world-class parks, and making those safer and making them places where we can inform people about wilderness safety, invasive species. That is an opportunity that has long gone unavailed, and I'd like to do that.
Thank you. Mr. DiSclafani.
Repeat the question?
Sure. 3 things you would do to help Shandaken's government be a model for other towns.
Well, I think we are already a model for other towns. We're growing in our environmentalism. Our CAC has done amazing outreach programs, and we have a comprehensive plan we're working on to move the town forward, which will help our zoning grow in the right way. Those are the things, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Last question.
Woo!
What do you think needs improvement in how to more efficiently run the town? Mr. DiSclafani.
Well, I think I've been working on that, and the last 4 years we have been improving things, doing the CAC, the comprehensive plan, doing the STR law, but other things need to be improved, but we're slowly working on it.
Thank you. Ms. Mansfield.
I think the theme, the thread that ties many of the issues together is communication. I think transparency is really critical for us to move forward. I think we need to be working with the community in a way to move all issues forward. And I feel like having regular communications, a board that communicates with each other well, and having regular communications that are outgoing with the townsfolk. I want to start a supervisor newsletter. I think that's the thread that's going to bring a lot of people into service and into community service, and we need you all.
Thank you. It is now time for your 3-minute closing statement. We're going to start with Ms. Mansfield.
Thank you again for coming. I didn't expect so many people to show up, and it's always great. I think that's the same way I felt when 20 volunteers showed up to do hard labor to help Phoenicia Park have a nature play area as envisioned by Autumn Brookmeyer. So thank you for showing up. I am really dedicated to helping the community envision a town that makes you all feel like proud to live here. And that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for showing up. I also have enjoyed these last 4 years where more and more people have got involved with our town, whether it's PHT or getting on the water committee or getting on the parks committees. It's been a really good upward swing for the town. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
your support.
Okay, before you do, I just have a couple of thank yous to James.
James, thank
Amenta,
you.
is that how you say it? Fantastic. He is the driving force and really the person that did the most to put this together. I'd also like to thank Helen Chase for coming. This is her very first timekeeping, and she did an amazing job. Yeah, could go either way. The folks who are video and audio, thank you very much for them. I would like to thank the candidates for, having the courage to throw your hat in the ring. That's not an easy thing. And finally, I want to thank this audience because you guys are amazing. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you all.
So don't forget to vote. And remind other people, June 24th.
Early voting starts June 14th.
Oh, gosh, that's right. Yeah.